Welcome to the Brewery Adventure, where we explore the vibrant world of local breweries and the incredible atmosphere they create. I'm Tim.
And I'm Courtney. If you've ever wondered what makes a brewery more than just a place to grab a drink, you're in for a treat.
In each episode, we'll cover the places making beer, from the cozy corners of neighborhood tap rooms to the bustling energy of larger brew houses.
We're not just talking about the beer. We're celebrating the ambiance, the culture, and the community that make each brewery a unique destination.
So whether you're a regular at your local brew pub or just curious about what's out there, join us as we uncover the magic behind the taps.
Let's embark on the brewery adventure together.
Cheers!
Cheers!
All right, Courtney, this is technically episode number 3 because we had an intro episode, right?
Yeah, so like 2.5.
Yeah, so it's the second main brewery episode that we've done. The first one was Waconia Brewing. If you haven't listened to that one, head on back and listen to that one. It was pretty good, and a brewery that you should definitely visit. Tonight, we are handling LTD Brewing.
Yes, LTD Brewing in Hopkins, Minnesota.
Yeah, Hopkins, Minnesota. We both live fairly close to Hopkins.
We do.
I'm about 2.5 miles north of the brewery.
And I'm probably the same distance south.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's one that my wife and I go to quite often, especially in the summertime, because we like sitting outside with our dog on their patio. But it is a wonderful little brewery and a nice little town. So we'll get into some of that as we go forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What shall we start with? I think we should start with opening the beers that we have with us.
Yes, the
Courtney
ceremonial opening of beers.
The ceremonial opening of beers from the brewery. Courtney was nice enough to go over and stop over there today and buy a couple of crowlers. And she brought me a very nice one called Firkin Friday. It's a vanilla coconut hazy IPA.
And the one I have, it might be my most favorite named beer ever.
Yeah.
It is Steamy McBoatface, which is a
Yes.
California common.
A California Common. Do you even know what kind of beer a California Common is?
I have no idea, which is a good opportunity
Maybe we should have looked that up before we did it. But anyway,
Yeah.
we are here, and we're going to crack open the beers. I'll go first. You can
Okay.
get the crack. Here we go. Oh, yeah, that sounded pretty
That was
good.
a good one.
That sounded pretty good. Let's see if I can get a little pouring sound.
Ooh.
All right. I've poured it into my LTD Brewing glass. Oh, that smells delicious. Why don't
I
you go
remember
ahead-
the smell of that one.
Yeah. We had this when we were at the brewery the other day, and it does, a lot of times a coconut beer doesn't have a lot of coconut in it. This one, you can smell it.
Yeah.
Oh, nummy. Why don't you go ahead and crack yours open and find out what yours is?
I don't know if my crack is going to be...
I could hear it.
All right. You poured without spilling.
I did. So nice. I love that sound.
This is darker than I thought it was going to be. I'm happy with that.
This is, like I said, is a hazy IPA. It has an IBU of 0. That cannot be right. Wow, a 0. Okay. And a 6.7% ABV. So it's tasty. I do like it. I'm not a huge IPA drinker, but I have been finding out recently, as we've been visiting more and more breweries and trying more and more beers, that the hazies, I tend to like them.
I have apparently always been an IPA drinker, and I didn't know it.
All right. Well, did you try the Steamy McBoatface?
I did not try this when we were there before.
Right.
You had this one.
Go ahead and give it a try, and you tell me what you think of it.
That's really good.
Good.
I'm glad I got this can.
Uh-huh. Yeah, she gave me a choice. She bought 3 different ones, gave me a choice. I've got another one sitting at home. I forget which one it is, the spice one, right?
Well, one was supposed to be for you, and one was supposed to be for your wife, Krista.
And she's going to like the other one.
Okay.
I think she'll like it.
I just want to make it clear that they weren't both for you. You can't take them both. You have to give her one.
Well, we'll share it at some point, right? I mean, that's a whole crowler, right? That's 2 pints, right?
Yeah, I guess you can share.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Good to know. Well, we've got our beers open, and as we said in the intro, this podcast is not specifically about the beers. It is about the breweries. So let's talk a little bit about LTD. It's in the city of Hopkins, as Courtney said earlier. It's a little part of the western suburbs. Hopkins is an older city in the western suburbs of Minneapolis. It's been around a long time. And it's in the past known for raspberries, which nowadays there's not a single raspberry farm anywhere near Hopkins. No one, unless somebody has a raspberry bush in their yard, nobody's growing any raspberries in Hopkins anymore. But it was known for that for a long, long time. And so they claim to be the raspberry capital of the world.
I don't know if I can argue with them about that, but
I mean, I'm not going to argue. They do have like a huge raspberry sculpture just down the street from the brewery.
Yes. That is there. And they've got a huge raspberry festival in the summer, which I do always intend to go to and never do.
Yeah, I have been a few times when my kids were little and a few times more recently as an adult. And it's always a good time. This year in 2025, it's going to be July 16th through the 20th. Many of the things that happen at this raspberry festival are, excuse me, that beer is coming back on me already. The Raspberry Festival has a big parade one day. They have a marketplace fair where the whole main street of the town is lots of little booths for all kinds of different businesses and food vendors. They have lots of other things that go on. They have a royalty. They have a 5K. They have all kinds of things that happen during the Raspberry Festival. So it's a very cool little thing for the town.
So it's in July. I've got plenty of time to mark it off on my calendar and make sure it happens this year.
16th through the 20th. You could be there. It's the 91st edition of the festival. Yeah, pretty amazing. Okay, well, that's a little bit about the city of Hopkins. The brewery itself, called LTD. What do you think? Anyone could guess what LTD stands for in this case?
I didn't know, so I'm not going to pretend like I did and give the answer.
All right. Well, the guys that started LTD, they were at the University of Minnesota in 2003. And according to their website, here's what I'll read a little bit about what they said. For the founders of LTD Brewing, it was in 2003 in college while attending the University of Minnesota. We needed a relatively inexpensive legal way to obtain beer. So we thought, why not brew our own? At first, we didn't care how it turned out as long as it had some alcohol in it. But after a couple of batches, we started to get picky. We started asking, how can we make this beer better? Extract kits turned into an all-grain system, and we continued to test new ideas. And over time, of course, like most breweries develop, they tried lots and lots and lots of different things. And finally, they thought they had something that they wanted to share with the public, and they opened a brewery. And thank God they did, because it's a great little place.
And that's a great story.
Yeah, I think so too. Let me read their dream statement to you, and then you can love that too. Yeah, they have a statement. We dream to give you an experience, not a drink. We believe beer is an art, a craft, and a passion that can only be inspired by challenging the way it is brewed and putting our heart and soul into every last drop. Beer for people who dare to dream differently.
I love that too.
Yeah.
This makes me feel so much happier about the beer I'm drinking right now.
Good. That's good. I'm liking this hazy. I'm liking it.
Yeah. I do remember the first time I went to LTD.
Yeah.
My friend Coda was up visiting me for a gaming thing.
Mm-hmm.
We went over there, and it's not a super big space. It's a cozy brewery space.
Yes, of the ones we've been to, yeah, it is cozy. It's not as tiny as some, but it is cozy. There's room for a number of people in there.
It's cozy. They had live music going.
Yeah.
It was grunge unplugged. It was three guys, a couple guitars. I think one was doing some percussion things like on a board or something.
Okay.
So all acoustic. They were doing like 90s grunge covers.
Wow.
And the bar was full of people. Everyone's singing along. Some people are dancing. It was just like the best time ever in there.
That's cool. Yeah, the most recent time that we were there, we were also there on a Friday night, which when I told my son I was going to LTD on a Friday night, he said, Dad, they have live music on Fridays. So he knew. My son's an adult, so don't worry about him being under the drinking age. He's well over it. It was a really nice musician. It was nice and calm. Courtney and I were there with some other friends of mine from my church, and it was just a very kind of a background music. He did a lot of covers, and you could request covers via your cell phone. You could just text him requests.
Some of us were more successful with our requests than others.
Yes, yeah. Mine didn't get played until Courtney also requested it, and then it got played. It was "Let It Be" by the Beatles. Good song. Good song.
It was good.
Yeah. Anyway, what was his name again, Courtney?
I'm gonna butcher his last name, and I feel really bad about it. Chris DePoyne.
I think that's close. DePoyne or DePoyen. Yeah, he didn't tell us how it was pronounced. At least we didn't hear it.
No.
He probably said it, but we were probably drinking beer at the time. So yeah, it was a really nice night and a very cozy atmosphere on a cold Minnesota night. It was probably 5 degrees outside, and it was very cozy in there and a nice place to be.
Absolutely perfect.
What do you think about the seating? And because we talked about Waconia Brewing seating maybe being a little lacking in a couple of areas in our last episode. What do you think about the seating in LTD?
Comfortable. I mean, we were there for a while and having a great time, having some beers, listening to music.
Yeah. They have a few high top tables in there, I think, but most of them are lower.
Yes.
So it's in a few spots at the bar. On the other side, there's maybe, by a few, I think there's maybe 4 seats on the other side.
That sounds about right.
I only noticed it because it was on the way to the bathroom, which, I was on to. So.
And they did have the world's smallest table.
Yes. Next to us, there was a tiny table. And we thought, no one's going to sit there. It's so small. It's like just a tiny little thing. But sure enough, a couple of ladies came by and sat down.
Yeah. It was big enough for a couple beers.
Yep.
But that was about it.
No, I've always liked LTD Brewing, and like we said earlier, we both live fairly close to this brewery, and so I have been there numerous times. Mostly in the summer, I will say, where I sat outside on their patio, and they set up a long patio all along the sidewalk outside the brewery. In fact, they take up all of the sidewalk, so when they do that, they add a new sidewalk on the edge of the street that goes around it.
Yes.
And it's pretty great. It's a nice place to sit. If you got your dog, especially, nice place to sit. LTD also has free popcorn. They got popcorn machine going all the time, which I enjoy, and my dog enjoys as well because there's always popcorn on the ground. And so just a cozy place. I mean, everything about LTD, I think the word cozy kind of describes it to me.
Yeah. There was a gentleman there. I was taking pictures of my beer because that's what I do.
Right.
He was giving me some photography tips, but then he also mentioned that he lives within reasonable distance of LTD, and he's been to lots and lots of other breweries in the area, and that's his home brewery. Like that's where he feels most comfortable. He can just come in by himself and get his beer and chill out. And
I think that's true of a lot of places in Hopkins, not just the brewery, but some of the restaurants as well. That because Hopkins is kind of an old downtown street. I mean, if you think of an old like Americana Main Street America kind of a street, this is what Hopkins looks like. It's lined with old buildings, lots of shops and things, and surrounded by pretty tightly packed neighborhoods. Some apartment buildings, but mostly single-family homes just around the downtown area. And I think there's a lot of people that like it for that reason. They live very close to the downtown. They can walk over. They can go to the brewery. They can go to a restaurant. There's a grocery store there, a hardware store, etc. So everything's available right there, and they don't have to get in their car. So I think it's a very neighborhood feel.
Yeah.
When you're in Hopkins. Kind of different. I live just north of it in the city of Minnetonka. And Minnetonka really doesn't have that because it's kind of spread out more. It's a true suburb of Minneapolis, whereas Hopkins was there a long time before. And so it really is kind of a nice place to hang out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Love it a lot. What else shall we talk about the brewery? Well, I have one other thing that I for certain want to talk about is my bathroom review. Because every time we go to a brewery, you are going to use the bathroom, and the bathroom is an important part of a brewery because you're going to need it. So one of the things I liked about this particular bathroom is I did not have to touch anything in there after I washed my hands.
Touch-free bathroom.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I did have to turn on the faucet, I think, but I was washing my hands, right? So
Yeah.
after I washed my hands, I didn't have to touch anything. I could get the paper towels and I could get out the door because they had one of those little kicker things on the door, where you put your foot on it and you give it a pull. So yeah, great. That's all I needed in a bathroom. And as I remember, it was a fairly clean bathroom, well done, lots of tile, that kind of thing. So their bathroom gets an A rating from me.
What I remember of the bathroom was seeing the kicker thing on the door and thinking, man, Tim's going to love this.
Yes. You got to have it. There's nothing worse than being in a bathroom, a public bathroom. I mean, I don't have a kicker thing on my bathroom door at home. But there's nothing worse than being in a public bathroom and then washing your hands and then going, especially if they have air dryers, because then you don't even have a paper towel to use to get out, right? So, and then being like, you go to the door and you have to do something. You have to pull the handle or do something and you can't get out. I hate that.
I'm really glad when I get to hear other people talk about bathroom issues like this.
We're all neurotic about public bathrooms, right? We should be.
I feel like we should be.
Yeah, we should be. We should be. This is why we're including bathroom reviews in this podcast.
It's important.
Because it's an important part of a brewery, no doubt. What other beers did you have there, Courtney, that you liked? Do you remember any of them?
I remember I had the pumpkin brown ale because it smelled delightful.
Okay, yeah.
That one was great. I had a port forward nitro.
Yes.
Because when I went to order that, the beer tender asked, "Do you want it regular or nitro?" And I looked at her and I said, "I don't know. What do I want?" And she said, "You want nitro."
Yeah, it was good. I had that one as well. It was very tasty. I tend towards darker beers most of the time, unless it's the middle of summer and I'm mowing the lawn or something, and I want something light.
That's not time for a dark beer.
No, it's not. But yeah, that one was good. I do remember that one.
Yeah, I had it was a sour ale that was orange guava.
Yeah.
Which was good, but it wasn't like, if you gave it to me to drink and said, "What is this flavor?" I don't know that I would have said orange or guava.
Yeah, that one didn't hit me as the orange or guava either, but like you said, it was good. It was good to drink. I mean, I did like it, and sours are another type of beer that I'm increasing my exposure to and liking more and more.
Yeah. And I think the other two I had, the holiday ale that I brought over a crowler for you, that one was awesome. That was a cranberry spice ale.
Yeah.
Loved that one. And then the other one was Long White Clouds. That was a hazy.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to trying that spice ale at home. I will make sure.
I would also like to clarify that we get flights. I'm not drinking full pints of all these beers. Well, let's be clear.
Yes, that is very much a good point to make. Quite often when we go to breweries, we want to try the different flavors.
Everything.
So we get flights and just try the little tasters, and it works out well. It works out pretty well doing it that way.
But it sounds really terrible when you start listing out
all the
like
beers that you had. It sounds like we're drinking a lot of beer. It sounds like we're drinking a lot of beer. And, we like it. We're not, we still got to drive home usually. So
yes.
We're being very careful.
Responsible.
Yeah, being very careful and responsible. And one of the things that I do love about LTD is that they also brew a root beer.
I have not actually had their root beer.
You should.
I should.
It's delicious. It's like you're still drinking a beer because it's got really good flavor. It's a little bitey, not like a really sugary A&W type of root beer, something like that. It is more of an old-fashioned, more bitey root beer, and it's delicious, and you would love it. And it's a great way to end your beer drinking for the night because you think, well, like you said, we're drinking small ones, but you don't want to overindulge because you got to drive home from these places. Yeah. So two of the things you can do is, of course, stop drinking. Number one, that's the first thing you can do to get your alcohol content down in your body.
Step one.
And the other thing is eat some food, right? That makes it so much better. Mm-hmm. Great thing about this place too is there's a Chipotle across the street. You can get that, so.
Yes.
So the root beer is delicious. Sometimes we just stop there and buy the root beer and bring it home because they also can it into the crowlers, and you can bring it home, and it's a wonderful root beer.
But I hear like you might have some history with their root beer.
We do have a little bit of history with the root beer in our family. So my son, who is 30 years old, he's not 30. My daughter's 30. My son is 27. Right? 28.
That seemed questionable.
Why am I thinking? He's 28. He was born in an even year. We just passed an even year. He's 28.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to remember. I'm old, so it's hard to remember. When he graduated from high school, one of the things he wanted at his grad party was a keg of root beer from LTD.
Wow.
Yeah, because he had it and he loved it and wanted to have that at his grad party. Of course, he's not of drinking age at the time. He's graduating from high school. He's 18. So I had my brother-in-law pick it up for me. So he stopped by the brewery. They gave him a keg. It says root beer on the top.
Uh-oh.
And brought it to our house. And as I'm tapping this keg, I put the tap in. And, when you first put a tap in a keg, you can get a little bit of, that smell comes in. The carbonate, the pressure releases a little bit, and you get the smell of what's inside. And my immediate thought was, that's not root beer.
Oh, no.
It smelled great, by the way. It was one of their, I don't think they make it anymore, but it was a dark beer that they were making at the time that I really loved. And as soon as I popped that thing, it was like, oh, that smells so good. But that is not the root beer that my son wanted for he and his other underage friends.
Yeah.
So I popped this keg, and of course a couple of, probably like 3-4 of the dads that are around there, like, were in on it, or like right away. At his graduation party. And so funny thing was, one of the people that was standing there was the youth pastor from church. And so he was there and he's like, that's not root beer. So anyway, so I told my brother-in-law, hey, this is not root beer, even though that's what it says. So he packed up the keg and took it back to the brewery. And he walked in and he said, I got a keg here I got to bring back because it's not right. He said, well, you just picked up the keg of root beer, right? He said, yep. He said, but it's not root beer. And they go, no. Of course it is. So they didn't believe him. So they tapped it at the brewery, stuck a tap in it, and as soon as they did it too, they go like, oh, that's not root beer. So the guy, they were super nice about it, and they did get him a keg of root beer, and we got a keg of root beer for the party, and everything was fine. And I think we got reimbursed for some money because they were totally nice about it. And the guy said, well, you could have just, kept that keg of beer and then came back and said, hey, we got a keg that isn't root beer. And I said, they would not have believed it. They didn't believe it when you had the keg in front of them.
No, they wanted to see, yeah.
They would not have believed. They would have thought that we were just trying to get another keg of something. Anyway, cool story with LTD. They were super nice about it. They just made one little mistake. But I think from then on, they were probably labeling their kegs a little more closely, keeping an eye on what they were doing. I hope no one got fired over the incident. It was many years ago.
That's awesome.
But it's a good story. It's a good story. And I wish I could have kept that other keg of beer because it was wonderful. I did pour out a couple of glasses before they took it back to the brewery. Yeah.
That seems fair.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it was wonderful. But that's my LTD story. I am still enjoying this vanilla coconut hazy IPA, though. It's delicious.
Yeah. Again, I distinctly remember the smell of that beer.
It smells great. All right. Wonderful. Let me go back to my notes to make sure we didn't miss anything. Oh, I know what we didn't talk about yet. You talked about the live music that you have experienced at LTD, but you had one other thing you wanted to talk about was their SIP club, which I guess I hadn't paid attention that they had such a thing, but what is that? I
didn't know there was such a thing either until I went in today to pick up our crawlers. And the gentleman who was checking me out asked if I was in the SIP club, and I said, no, should I be? So he started going through all the benefits of being in it, saying this is a great time of year to join it because it goes from like January 1st to December 31st.
Okay, so a yearly thing. Yep.
It's a yearly thing. I think it was $50 to join the SIP Club, to be an official member of the SIP Club.
Yeah.
But then you're getting discounts off crowlers. You're getting a heavier discount if you get 3 crowlers at a time. You get a bonus pour when you get a beer, which I'm not sure how that works. If there's like an extra tall glass that they put this in, or if they give you like a little beer chaser with your big beer.
Yeah. Do they have special Sip Club glasses that are a little bigger, or?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah.
You get a free beer or root beer. It could be root beer on your birthday.
Absolutely.
And then they've got a big end of the year SIP Club party.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
It is cool. And I feel like for $50 I could be a member.
Yeah, for $50 if you're going to go there on the regular like we probably already do.
Yeah.
Probably not a bad deal.
Yeah. I think it's in my future. It's probably in your future too.
Very good. It sounds very good. Well, I'm debating back and forth once you told me about it, because it is a brewery like I said that we go to quite often. But now that we're doing this podcast, I'm continually thinking about, I got to go to this brewery, I got to go to that brewery, I got to go experience that other brewery again because I've only been there once, and I want to try it out a couple of times, 2-3 times, in order to try it at different times of the week and things like that, so that we can talk about breweries with a little more experience. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I'll do it. I don't know.
But it is like right in the middle of both of us.
Yeah.
So anytime we were like, hey, we need to meet to talk about podcast things.
Yeah, right.
Like that's where we'd go.
And we really should meet at breweries to talk about this podcast.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, there's nowhere else that you could do it.
No,
absolutely not.
Our podcast would get canceled if we were meeting somewhere else.
Yes. Yep, it would. So, Courtney, is there anything else you want to say about LTD Brewing?
I love it there. Like you just walk in the door and it feels comfortable.
Yeah, it is a comfortable place. It really is. And another thing I was going to mention, one of the things I like about LTD too is a lot of breweries, you got to go in and you got to line up at the bar to get a beer.
Not at
right?
LTD.
And there might be a line. There might be a line. Sometimes you go to a brewery and it's busy. There could be 10, 15, 20 people in a line.
Yeah.
And it takes a few minutes to get through the process. Not at LTD. You just sit down where you want to sit down. And someone will come to you with an iPad and they will take your beer order and then bring you your beers.
Yep.
I really love that about that place.
And make great suggestions about you don't want the regular, you want the nitro.
Right. Yeah. They'll obviously make suggestions if that's what you need from them. That's a great thing. Well, I think that we've come to the end of talking about LTD Brewing, unless you have anything else you want to add.
I feel like everyone should go visit this one.
Everyone should. There's no doubt. If you're in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, you should give LTD Brewing a try in Hopkins. Again, you have a computer in your pocket, so look it up. You can find it. Well, that will be the end then of this episode about LTD Brewing. Thanks for coming along with us on the Brewery Adventure. You can find our website at thebreweryadventure.com, where you'll find all the information about all the podcast episodes, a little bit of information about Courtney and I, and links to our other social medias like
Instagram and YouTube and
Untappd. And Untappd. That is correct. Yes. So you can find those links there. And if you need to contact us for any reason, if you want to give us suggestions about breweries we should go to, what you like and don't like about breweries and tap rooms, we would love to hear from you, whether it's about LTD or any other brewery. You can contact us at tim@thebreweryadventure.com or courtney@thebreweryadventure.com.
We would love to hear from you. I think what we've heard so far, a lot of people are, you doing a brewery podcast? Oh, you guys should go here.
Yes, I have heard that just because we just released within the last few days our first couple of episodes. This episode will come out a couple of weeks later than that. But it is amazing how many people, I've just gotten some text messages and some comments on Facebook about, you've got to visit this brewery, or when you come to this place, going to Geo Woodstock later this summer, you've got to visit this brewery or go out to these breweries. And I think it's just pretty cool. There's a big brewery culture out there, not just here in Minnesota, of course, all over the country. And we're really looking forward to visiting all of them, aren't we, Courtney?
All of them. They are all on my list.
All of them. They're all on the list. Well, thanks so much for coming along with us on this brewery adventure. We will see you next time. What brewery are we going to talk about next time, Courtney?
I believe next time we are taking a trip out to Hutchinson, Minnesota to discuss the Bobbing Bobber.
The Bobbing Bobber Brewing Company. Yes. That is a wonderful place. That was the place that was the instigator for starting this podcast.
Absolutely.
That's a little inside knowledge there. All right. We will see you all next time on the Brewery Adventure. Until then, cheers.
Cheers.